Indigenous Non-G 1999 welcomes you. 2112 by Rush. Featuring Geddy Lee, vocals and bass. Alex Lifeson, guitars. Neil Peart, drums and percussion. Hugh Syme, a RP Odyssey synthesizer, synth guitar, and mellotron. 2112, pronounced 2112, is the fourth studio album by Canadian rock band Rush, released in March 1976 by Anthem Records. Rush finished touring for their unsuccessful previous album Caress of Steel in early 1976. The band was in financial hardship due to the album's disappointing sales, unfavorable critical reception, and a decline in attendance at its shows. The band's international label, Mercury Records, considered dropping Rush but granted the band one more album following negotiations with manager Ray Daniels. Though the label demanded more commercial material, the band decided to continue developing its progressive rock sound. 2112 was recorded in January 1976 in Toronto with regular producer Terry Brown. Its centerpiece is the 20-minute title track, a futuristic science fiction song that takes up the entire first side of the album. There are 5 individual tracks on side 2. 2112 was released to favorable reviews from music critics and quickly outsold the band's previous albums. It peaked at number 5 on the Canadian Albums Chart and number 61 on the US Billboard Top LPs and Tape and was the band's commercial breakthrough in the country. Rush supported the album with a tour of the United States, Canada, and for the first time, Europe, from February 1976 to June 1977. 2112 remains the band's second highest-selling album behind 1981's Moving Pictures with more than 3 million copies sold in the United States. It is listed in 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, and ranked second on Rolling Stone's Readers' Poll Your Favorite Prog Rock Albums of All Time. 2112 has been reissued several times. A 40th anniversary edition was released in 2016 with previously unreleased material including the album performed by artists including Dave Grohl, Taylor Hawkins, Billy Talent, Steven Wilson, and Alice in Chains. In January 1976, Rush ended its 1975 to 1976 tour to support the band's third studio album Caress of Steel. The band members had enjoyed writing and recording the album, but Alex Lifeson recalled the group in a state of confusion after the tour, sensing the disappointing reaction from crowds after playing songs from it on stage. The progressive rock-themed album with lengthy story-based songs, complex song structures, and hard-to-grasp lyrics, made it difficult to receive radio airplay and promote effectively. Geddy Lee said the band could not understand the underwhelming response and later dubbed the tour the Down the Tubes tour as the band members struggled to meet their $125 a week salary while crowds declined. Geddy Lee added, "That really shakes your confidence. We were so confused and disheartened." In 1980, Alex Lifeson said this was the only moment in Rush history when he felt close to giving up. The band's international label, Mercury Records, considered dropping them. Rush manager Ray Daniels flew to the label's head offices in Chicago to try to regain confidence and spoke highly of the band's new ideas for a new album without having heard any of it. Mercury approved one more album. Despite pressure from the label and management to make a more commercial record, the band ignored the advice and proceeded with material as they saw fit. Alex Lifeson said, "I remember having these conversations about what are we going to do? Are we going to try to make another mini Led Zeppelin record? Or are we going to do what we are going to do? Continue forward and whatever happens, happens." We fully intended to not go down in flames, but we were prepared to do that. Following the commercial success of the album and tour, the band vowed to take full creative control of their music from that point on. Writing and recording. Rush began to put down musical ideas for 2112 in backstage dressing rooms, hotel rooms, and in their touring van during the Caress of Steel tour. As Neil Peart started to write lyrics, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson would write music that complemented the mood of what Neil Peart was writing about. Most of it was performed on acoustic guitars with the exception of some electric guitar passages with a portable pig nose practice amplifier. They focused on writing music with little need for overdubbing, as they wished to recreate it on stage as much as possible. Alex Lifeson recalled developing the Temples of Syrinx backstage at a gig in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario in front of their opening act Mendelssohn Joe. The album was written in approximately 6 months, with Overture being the final piece developed. Rush made a conscious effort to exclude Ray Daniels from the writing and recording sessions and only played the album to him when it was finished. Musically speaking, 2112 was the first album that Alex Lifeson said really sounded like Rush. 2112 was recorded in January 1976 across 4 weeks at Toronto Sound Studios with longtime associate Terry Brown assuming his role as producer. The studio was fitted with a 24-track machine manufactured by Studer. Alex Lifeson plays a 1968 Gibson ES-335 for the majority of the electric guitar parts on 2112 with some lead parts played on a Gibson Les Paul Standard. For the acoustic sections, he plays a 12-string Gibson B45 and a 6-string Gibson Dove. His amplifiers were the Fender Super Reverb and a Twin Reverb. A section of Discovery features Alex Lifeson playing a Fender Stratocaster that he borrowed from a friend. At the time of recording 2112, Geddy Lee was using a Rickenbacker 4001 bass with stereo output. Brown fed one channel directly into the mixing board and then into a compressor, and the other was channeled into Lee's Electro Voice speakers turned up to the maximum. Upon completing the album, the band expressed an interest in recording in another studio to explore different sounds. Their next album, A Farewell to Kings, was recorded in Wales. Side 1 of 2112 is occupied by the 20-minute futuristic science fiction suite titled 2112. The 7-part track is based on a story by Neil Peart, the band's primary lyricist, who credits the genius of Ayn Rand in the album's liner notes. Rand, a Russian-American novelist and inventor of the philosophy of objectivism, wrote the 1937 dystopian fictional novel Anthem, the plot of which bears several similarities to 2112. All members read the book. Peart added the credit to avoid any legal action. In the British paper NME, Barry Miles made allusions of the Rand influence to Nazism, which particularly offended Geddy Lee, whose parents were Holocaust survivors. The first and last sections, Overture and Grand Finale, are instrumentals. The Overture features an introduction from graphic designer and musician Hugh Seamay, performed on an ARP Odyssey synthesizer with an Echoplex delay pedal. Music writer and professor Rob Bowman calculated that in the entire piece, the song contains improvised guitar solos. Overture contains the lyric "And the meek shall inherit the earth," a reference to the biblical passages Book of Psalms 37 hours, and 11 minutes and Matthew 5:5, and borrows a short sequence from the 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky. 2112 tells a story set in the city of Megadon in 2112, where individualism and creativity are outlawed, with the population controlled by a cabal of malevolent priests who reside in the temples of Syrinx. A galaxy-wide war resulted in the planets forcefully joining the Solar Federation, symbolized by the Red Star. By 2112, the world is controlled by the priests who take orders from giant banks of computers inside the temple. Music is unknown in this world, absent of creativity and individuality. But in Discovery, a nameless man finds a beaten guitar inside a cave and rediscovers the lost art of music. In Presentation, the man takes the guitar to the priests at the temple who say, "Yes, we know, it's nothing new, it's just a waste of time," and then proceed angrily to destroy it and send him away. Next in Oracle, The Dream, the man dreams of a new planet established at the same time as the Solar Federation, where creative people live. He awakens depressed that music is part of such a civilization and that he can never be part of it and kills himself in soliloquy. Originally titled Soliloquy of the Soul, another planetary war begins in Grand Finale, originally named Denouement, resulting in the ambiguous spoken ending, "Attention all planets of the Solar Federation, we have assumed control." Neil Peart described the ending as a double surprise, a real Hitchcock killer. Side 2 contains 5 individual songs that display the band's more traditional hard rock sound and Lee's higher-pitched vocals featured on their previous albums. Alex Lifeson said while having a title track more serious, the rest of the album was to be just a little lighter and a little more fun. Bowman wrote that the variation of styles on Side 2 offers a very different listening experience in comparison. Though the tracks are not specifically about the 2112 concept, they do contain ideas that can relate to its overall theme. Geddy Lee wrote the lyrics for Tears and Alex Lifeson the lyrics to Lessons, while Neil Peart wrote the rest. A Passage to Bangkok is a song about marijuana. Geddy Lee said it is a travelogue for all the places in the world that grow the best weed. The track mentions a number of cities and countries, specifically Bogota, Jamaica, Acapulco, Morocco, Bangkok, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Kathmandu. Rush started to write The Twilight Zone at a time when they needed one more song to fill both sides of the vinyl record. The band were big fans of the television series The Twilight Zone and based the track on the stories written for it from its host Rod Serling. Lessons is one of the few Rush songs written solely by Alex Lifeson. For him, the process of songwriting is more seldom and spontaneous in comparison to dedicating time to write, rehearse, and scrap parts that do not work. Tears is a romantic ballad and is the first Rush track to incorporate the mellotron which Hugh C. performs. Something for Nothing is a song about free will and decision-making and about how dreams cannot be realized without positive effort. Regarding this song, Neil Peart states, "All those paeans to American restlessness, and the American road, carried a tinge of wistfulness, an acknowledgement of the hardships of the vagrant life, the notion that wanderlust could be involuntary exile as much as freedom, and indeed the understanding that freedom wasn't free." In the mid-negative 1970s, the band was driving to a show in downtown Los Angeles at the Shrine Auditorium and noticed some graffiti splattered across a wall, "Freedom isn't free," and I adapted that for a song on 2112. The artwork, also known as the Starman logo, the emblem was adopted by Rush fans as a logo since its first appearance in the gatefold of 2112. Neil Peart described the Starman in an interview with Cream magazine. "All the naked man means is the abstract man against the masses. The red star symbolizes any collectivist mentality. On the album art, the collectivist mentality is depicted as the red star of the Solar Federation, which, according to the plot, is a galaxy-wide federation that controls all aspects of life during the year 2112. The figure in the emblem is depicted as the hero. Hugh C. the creator of many of Rush's album covers, commented on the design. "The man is the hero of the story. That he is nude is just a classic tradition. The pureness of his person and creativity without the trappings of other elements such as clothing. The red star is the evil red star of the Federation, which was one of Neil Peart's symbols. We basically based that cover around the red star and that hero." The logo also appears on 7 other Rush album covers on the backdrop behind Neil Peart's drum kit in All the World's a Stage, their first live album released in 1976. In one of the pictures that is being moved in Moving Pictures, on Retrospective 1, on Archives, a compilation album released in 1978, on their live album Exit Stage Left, in the background amongst symbols from all their previous work, on their 2003 compilation The Spirit of Radio, Greatest Hits 1974 to 1987, and on their 2004 EP Feedback. It is also featured on the Canada Post stamp honoring Rush issued July 19, 2013. It also was featured on the front bass drum heads of Neil Peart's drum kit from 1977 to 1983 and again on the 2004 R30 and 2015 R40 tours. Cashbox praised the album, calling it a valid and melodic tale. "The story song is a definite cohesive listen. They said of Temples of Syrinx that it combines growling guitars with an incredibly shrill lead vocal." In an article about 2112 for Cream, Dan Nugger wrote, "The album features some significant mellotron meanderings and amazingly eccentric lyrics." 2112 was included in IGN's list 10 classic prog rock albums. In a reader's poll held by Rolling Stone, it placed second on the list of favorite prog rock albums. AllMusic's Greg Prato stated 1976's 2112 proved to be their much sought-after commercial breakthrough and remains one of their most popular albums. The Audio-Visual Preservation Trust of Canada, a non-profit Canadian charitable organization dedicated to promoting the preservation of Canada's audiovisual heritage, has sponsored Masterworks, which annually recognizes 12 culturally significant Canadian classics from the film, radio, TV, and music industries. In 2006, 2112 was one of the albums chosen to be preserved. In 2018, the album won the Polaris Heritage Prize Audience Award in the 1976 to 1985 category. Ultimate Classic Rock included the album on their list of the top 100 70s rock albums. Prog readers voted 2112 the 15th best progressive rock album of all time. 2112 was released in March 1976 on vinyl, 8-track cartridge, and cassette tape. It received strong promotion from Polydor, the distributor of Mercury Records albums, who issued an advertising campaign based on graphics on the album sleeve in major trade publications. It became Rush's second album after Fly By Night to enter the top 10 on the Canadian Albums Chart, peaking at number 5. In the US, it peaked at number 61 on the Billboard Top LPs and Take chart, the week of May 29, 1976. During a 37-week stay on the chart, it also marked the band's first to crack the US Top 100. The album sold faster than any of Rush's previous albums. In June 1976, The album had outsold the band's past catalog in Canada and the US, selling close to 35,000 and over 200,000 copies, respectively. 2112 became a strong seller in the US. It reached gold certification by the Recording Industry Association of America (RIAA) in November 1977 for selling 500,000 copies. In November 1995, the album reached triple platinum for selling over 3 million copies, becoming Russia's second biggest seller after Moving Pictures. Attention all planets of the Solar Federation. We have assumed control. We have assumed control. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more similar content. Rock on.